Good morning, good evening, good whatever time you're watching this at. Welcome to yet another Pipedream Speed Run. So this episode is yet another meta episode where we're going to go in and build something that's actually used on the production Pipedream site. So whenever we make changes to the documentation, we have to tell Algolia, our search engine, that we've made these changes so they can reindex the whole site and make the search bar work. So that whole process is kind of manual at the moment. We have to go into the dashboard. We have to tell Algolia to reindex whenever we make a new release of the documentation. Let's change that. We're going to use Algolia, of course, and we're going to use a brand new feature here at Pipedream where you can quickly make HTTP requests without writing any code, which is awesome. First things first, start with a brand new workflow. And let's visualize this whole process. So the first step is I'm going to be creating some documentation on my local machine. I'm going to put it on GitHub, and then we're going to merge the request and then tag a release, right? So the trigger of this workflow should be a GitHub release. Let's go ahead and open up the GitHub trigger. And I know it's underneath the custom webhook events. Select our GitHub account. And then this is kind of funny, actually. The example repository is exactly the repository that we're going to be using to listen to releases. So I'm going to just enter in a custom expression, which allows us to enter in just plain text. We can copy and paste that particular repository. And then the event we care about is a release. Check that. And then we can create the source. So now our workflow will trigger whenever a new release occurs on our official Pipedream repository. Next, we're going to create an action that will tell Algolia to reindex whenever this new release occurs. So let's add a brand new step. Now, we do have an Algolia action that's pre-built. However, it's not for interacting with the crawler API, which is a different API. It's kind of confusing. But luckily for us, there's this brand new feature where you can use this built-in HTTP webhook interface. We'll click on this, and we're going to make a post request. And voila, look at that. We've got almost like a Postman type interface or Insomnia or Hopscotch, and it's right here in a step, and we don't need to do any code, which is awesome. I'm going to head over to the crawler documentation, and I know this particular endpoint is the one I needed to use to reindex the whole search engine or the whole documentation site. Let's look at the overview real quick, make sure we get the base path. Yes, so this is the base path to the API. I'm just going to quickly copy it over here. And then we need to add the endpoint right here. So we'll copy the endpoint and we'll add it to the base domain. And you can see right here, there's a URL parameter. And I went ahead and I've used environment variables to store this particular crawler ID as an environment variable. So it's easy to change later. If for some reason we need to update and make a new crawler. So we can use process.env.crawler ID. The crawler ID is associated with our Algolia crawler. Next, we need to set up the authentication for the API call. The authorization type is basic auth. And for those who don't know, basic auth just means enter in a username and a password, which we can get from the crawler admin area under your user account. So we head over there and we can see right here, here is our user ID and our API key. So we'll just copy this as our user ID and we'll paste it into our username field here. And then for a password, we can just go to our settings, copy the password, and then bring it back to the password field within our API call on Pipedream. So now the API request is configured to send a post request to the reindexing route, and we've added our username and password as authentication to prove that we are who we say we are. So let's click the test button, and hopefully we'll see a green light coming back. Look at that. So we've successfully made a request that was accepted by the crawler. And if we head on back to the Algolia crawler dashboard, we should hopefully see it's currently crawling our site. So now every single time we make a release to the Pipedream docs, Algolia will automatically kick off a reindex, so that way the search engine is updated with the latest content.